German Shepherd, was crying under a fallen Christmas tree. What baby did next left everyone in tears. The sound that woke Tommy Walker on Christmas Eve wasn't jingle bells or reindeer hooves. It was crying, not human crying, but something deeper, more desperate, coming from downstairs where the Christmas tree lights should have been twinkling peacefully. What the 5-year-old boy discovered next would save 3 lives and reveal a gift that science still can't explain. If you think you know where this story is going, prepare to be shocked at every turn. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. Tommy's small feet hit the cold wooden floor at exactly 11:47 p.m. The digital clock beside his bed cast a red glow across his dinosaur pajamas as he stood there, listening. The crying came again, low, painful, mixed with something that sounded like branches scraping against glass. "Max?" he whispered into the darkness, recognizing something familiar in that sound. Max was Mr. Chen's German Shepherd from next door, but Max never came inside their house. Never. The upstairs hallway vibrated with music and laughter. His parents, Sarah and Mark, were having their annual Christmas Eve party, and from the sounds of it, nobody had heard what Tommy was hearing. He padded past the bathroom, where someone was singing off-key, past his parents' bedroom, where coats were piled high on the bed, and stopped at the top of the stairs. The crying got louder. Tommy gripped the banister with both hands and descended slowly, his heart beating so hard he could feel it in his throat. The living room should have been glowing with hundreds of tiny white lights, but instead, darkness sprawled across the floor like spilled ink. As his eyes adjusted, he saw it. Their massive Christmas tree, the one his dad had spent 3 hours decorating, was on its side. Ornaments scattered across the carpet caught moonlight from the window, creating a field of broken stars. And underneath it all, trapped beneath heavy branches and tangled in lights, was Max. "Oh no," Tommy breathed, dropping to his knees beside the fallen tree. Max's brown eyes found his, wide with pain and something else, urgency. The dog's front leg was bent at an angle that made Tommy's stomach hurt, and dark stains spread across the carpet beneath him. "It's okay, boy. I'm here." Tommy reached through the branches, his small fingers finding Max's head. The moment they made contact, something extraordinary happened. Images flashed through Tommy's mind like a movie playing at triple speed. Mr. Chen falling in his kitchen, his hand clutching his chest, his other hand reaching for something orange on the counter. Medicine. The old man's lips moving, calling for help that wouldn't come. Tommy jerked his hand back, gasping. This had happened before, these strange pictures in his head when he touched animals, but never this clear, never this urgent. Max whimpered louder, his good paw scraping against the floor, trying to pull himself free. More images flooded Tommy's mind, without even touching the dog now. Max breaking through Mr. Chen's back window, glass cutting deep into his shoulders and sides, the desperate run through the snow to the Walker house, finding the back door cracked open where someone had gone out for a smoke during the party. "You came for help," Tommy whispered, understanding flooding through him. "Mr. Chen needs help." He tried lifting the tree trunk, straining with all his 5-year-old might, but it wouldn't budge. The branches were too heavy, too tangled, and Max was too deep underneath. Tommy could see the dog's breathing getting shallower, his eyes starting to close. No, stay awake!" Tommy scrambled to his feet and ran for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, despite his mother always telling him not to. He burst into the party room, where adults stood around with wine glasses and small plates of food, their faces flushed with warmth and alcohol. "Mom? Dad?" Tommy's voice cracked with panic. "Max is hurt and Mr. Chen is dying." The conversation stopped. 20 pairs of adult eyes turned to look at the small boy in dinosaur pajamas. His face streaked with tears, he didn't remember crying. Sarah Walker set down her wine glass and moved toward her son, that patient smile adults get when they think children are being dramatic. "Honey, what are you doing up? You should be in bed." The tree fell and Max is trapped under it, and he's bleeding, and Mr. Chen had a heart attack, and he needs his medicine, and... "Slow down, sweetheart." Sarah knelt in front of him, her party dress rustling. "You had a bad dream." "The tree is fine, see?" She gestured toward the hallway, not even looking. "You can see the lights from here." "No!" Tommy grabbed his mother's hand, pulling hard. "It fell." Max knocked it over, trying to get help. Please, Mom, please." Mark Walker laughed from across the room, the sound bouncing off the walls like broken glass. "Someone's had too much Christmas excitement. Come on, buddy, let's get you back to bed." "I'm not making it up." Tommy's voice rose to a scream that made several guests step back. "Why don't you ever believe me? Like when I told you about Mrs. Patterson's cat being sick and you said I was imagining things and then it died. Or when I knew Grandma fell before she called. Why don't you ever listen? Tommy, that's enough." Mark's voice held that edge that meant trouble later. "You're being rude to our guests." A woman Tommy didn't recognize whispered something about children and their imaginations, and several people chuckled. The sound made something break inside Tommy's chest. He yanked his hand free from his mother's grip and ran back downstairs, their laughter following him like a cruel echo. Max was still trapped, but his eyes were closed now. Tommy dropped beside him, pressing both hands against the dog's side, feeling the weak rise and fall of his breathing. "I'm sorry they won't help," he whispered, "but I won't leave you. I promise." That's when the second wave of images hit him, stronger than before. Not memories this time, something happening right now. He saw through Max's connection to his owner, felt the bond between them like a silver thread stretching through the walls. Mr. Chen was on his kitchen floor, his face gray, his breathing barely visible. But there was something else, someone else Max was worried about. Emily. The name came to Tommy like someone had spoken it directly into his mind. Mr. Chen's daughter Emily, driving through the snowstorm, her car sliding, the tree coming too fast, the sound of metal crushing. Tommy gasped, pulling his hands back. 3 people. 3 people needed help, and nobody would believe him. He looked at Max, at the blood pooling beneath him, at the way his chest barely moved anymore. "I'll try again," he promised, and ran back upstairs. This time he didn't go to the party room. He went to his parents' bedroom, to his mother's purse, and pulled out her phone. He knew the passcode, his birthday, 0518. His fingers shook as he pressed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "My neighbor Mr. Chen had a heart attack and his dog is dying, and his daughter Emily crashed her car and—" "Slow down, honey. Where are your parents?" "They won't listen. They never listen. Please, mister. Chen lives at 42 Maple Street and he's on his kitchen floor and he needs his heart medicine and—" "Are you at 44 Maple Street?" "Tommy Walker." Tommy's eyes widened. "How do you know my name?" "We've received a call about a possible break-in at your neighbor's house. A broken window. We're sending someone to check. Are you safe?" "That was Max. He broke the window to get help. Please, did you have to hurry?" The operator's voice changed, became more serious. "Tommy, I'm sending help right now. Can you tell me why you think Mr. Chen had a heart attack?" Tommy squeezed his eyes shut, knowing how crazy it would sound. "Max showed me. I know you won't believe me, but sometimes I can see things when I touch animals, and Max showed me Mr. Chen falling and—" "Tommy?" The operator's voice was gentle now. "Help is on the way. Stay on the line with me." But Tommy had already seen something else in his mind, clear as a photograph. Emily's car, silver with a dent in the back bumper, off Highway 9, near the big oak tree that got struck by lightning last summer. She was unconscious, the snow covering her windshield, the engine still running, but nobody could see her from the road. "Emily Chen crashed on Highway 9 near the lightning tree," he said urgently. "She's in a silver Toyota with a dented bumper and she's unconscious and the snow is covering her car and—" "Tommy, how could you possibly know—" The bedroom door burst open. Mark stood there, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "Tommy!" "What are you doing with Mom's phone?" "I called 911, Tommy said, holding the phone tight. "Mr. Chen needs help." Mark's face went from red to white as he heard the sirens approaching. Not one siren, multiple. The party upstairs had gone quiet, everyone moving to the windows to see what was happening. Sarah appeared behind Mark, her hand over her mouth as she saw the emergency vehicles pulling up to Mr. Chen's house. "Oh my God, something really is wrong." "The tree," Tommy said quietly. "Go look at the tree." Both parents ran downstairs, Tommy following with the phone still pressed to his ear. Sarah's scream when she saw Max trapped under the fallen Christmas tree made several party guests come running, the living room filled with gasps and shocked voices as everyone took in the destruction, the blood, the barely breathing dog. "How did we not hear this?" Mark whispered, already pulling at branches trying to free Max. "The music," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "The party. Oh God, Tommy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But Tommy wasn't listening to his parents anymore. He was kneeling beside Max again, his hand on the dog's head, receiving one more urgent message. Emily's car was filling with carbon monoxide from a damaged exhaust pipe. She had maybe 20 minutes before. "She's running out of time," Tommy screamed into the phone. "Emily's car is filling with poison gas. Please." The operator was typing rapidly. "I'm dispatching units to Highway 9 right now. Tommy, you said near a lightning-struck tree? The big oak about 2 miles from the exit. Her car went down the embankment. You can't see it from the road because of the snow." Mark had managed to lift part of the tree while 3 party guests helped pull Max free. The dog's breathing was shallow, his injuries severe. Dr. Rachel Torres, who happened to be at the party as someone's +1, immediately went into veterinarian mode, checking Max's vitals with professional efficiency. "He needs surgery immediately," she announced. "These lacerations are deep, and I think his leg is broken in multiple places. How long has he been like this?" "I found him maybe 15 minutes ago," Tommy said, not taking his eyes off Max. "This blood loss, he shouldn't even be conscious." Dr. Torres looked at the trail of blood leading from the back door. "Wait, are these injuries from the tree?" Tommy shook his head. "He broke through, mister." Chen's window to get help. Everyone in the room fell silent, staring at the boy. Through the windows, they could see paramedics rushing into Mr. Chen's house with a stretcher. "How did you know?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Tommy, how did you know Mr.?" Chen was in trouble. Tommy looked up at his mother, his eyes old beyond his 5 years. "Max told me. Not with words. With pictures in my head. He showed me everything." Before anyone could respond, one of the paramedics appeared at their door. "Is this the boy who called 911? "That's me," Tommy said, standing up straighter. The paramedic knelt down to Tommy's level. "Mr. Chen is alive because of you. He had a massive heart attack. Another 10 minutes and we would have been too late." "How did you know?" Tommy pointed at Max. "Who?" "Doctor." Torres was carefully loading onto a makeshift stretcher made from a tablecloth. "He knew?" "He came for help." The paramedic's radio crackled. "Unit 7 to dispatch. We found the silver Toyota off Highway 9, exactly where the kid said. Female victim unconscious but alive. High levels of CO detected. Beginning extraction now." Every adult in the room turned to stare at Tommy. Mark's mouth opened and closed without sound. Sarah pulled her son into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered over and over. "I'm so sorry we didn't believe you." Dr. Torres cleared her throat. "I need to get Max to my clinic immediately. He's lost too much blood." She looked at Tommy. "Would you like to come?" "I have a feeling he'll do better with you there." Tommy nodded, then remembered something that made his stomach drop. Emily doesn't know about her dad. They haven't talked in 2 years. She was coming to surprise him for Christmas, to say sorry for their fight. "How could you possibly know that?" Mark asked, but his voice held no disbelief now, only wonder. Tommy touched Max's fur gently. "He remembers everything. Every fight, every harsh word. Every time Mr. Chen sat by the window, hoping Emily would visit. Max was the only one who saw both of their pain." The ride to the veterinary clinic was silent except for Max's labored breathing. Tommy sat in the back, his small hand never leaving the dog's side. Through their connection, he could feel Max fighting, not for himself, but because he knew Mr. Chen would need him. "He's not giving up," Tommy told Dr. Torres. "He knows Mr. Chen will be alone if he dies." Dr. Torres glanced in the rearview mirror. "Tommy, I need to ask you something. This thing you can do, seeing what animals see, has it always been like this?" Tommy shook his head. "It used to be just feelings. Like knowing when our cat was scared of thunderstorms before they started, or feeling when birds hit our window, even when I was at school. But with Max, it's different, clearer." "Why do you think that is?" Tommy was quiet for a moment, his hand stroking Max's fur. "I think it's because Max really needed someone to understand. Like, really, really needed it. And I was the only one listening." They pulled into the clinic's emergency entrance where Dr. Torres's assistant, James, was already waiting with a gurney. As they transferred Max, his eyes opened briefly, finding Tommy's face. "I won't leave," Tommy promised. "I'll be right here when you wake up." The surgery took 3 hours. Tommy refused to go home, instead sitting in the waiting room with his parents, who had followed in their car. The party guests had dispersed, but news of what happened was already spreading through the neighborhood. Sarah held Tommy close, occasionally whispering apologies that Tommy accepted with a maturity that seemed impossible for his age. "Mom, it's okay," he said finally. "I know it sounds crazy. If Max hadn't shown me, I wouldn't believe it either." Mark was pacing, his phone constantly buzzing with updates. "Mister, Chen is stable. They got him to the hospital in time. And Emily," his voice caught, "Emily's awake. Carbon monoxide poisoning, hypothermia, but she's going to be okay. The police said another few minutes and..." He didn't finish, but they all understood. Another few minutes and it would have been too late. "How did Max know about Emily?" Sarah asked. "He was already hurt, already trying to save Mister. Chen. How did he know about the crash?" Tommy closed his eyes, remembering the flood of images. "Dogs know things. They feel connections we can't see. Max loves Mr. Chen, but he also loves Emily because Mr. Chen loves her. Even when they weren't talking, Max could feel how much Mr. Chen missed his daughter. And tonight, when she got close, when she was finally coming home, Max felt her too. Felt her car sliding, felt her fear, felt her getting sleepy from the poison air. "That's not scientifically possible," Mark said, but his protest was weak. "Neither is me knowing where she crashed," Tommy pointed out. "But I did." Dr. Torres emerged from surgery just after 3 a.m., exhaustion written across her face, but a small smile playing at her lips. "He's going to make it." It was touch and go for a while. He'd lost so much blood. "But he's a fighter, probably the strongest dog I've ever treated." Tommy stood up immediately. "Can I see him?" "He's still sedated, but yes. Actually, I think it would be good for him to know you're there when he wakes up." The recovery room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitoring equipment. Max lay on a heated bed, his leg in a cast, bandages covering the numerous cuts from the window glass. Tommy pulled a chair close and settled in, his hand finding an unbandaged spot on Max's shoulder. "Mr. Chen is okay," he whispered. "Emily too. You saved them both." Max's tail, even in sedation, gave the faintest thump. As dawn broke on Christmas morning, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Tommy was still there, still maintaining his vigil. His parents had dozed off in chairs nearby, but Tommy remained awake, occasionally receiving what he could only describe as dream images from Max, memories of better times, of Emily as a child playing in Mr. Chen's yard, of family dinners where Max got scraps under the table, of the slow dissolution of the relationship between father and daughter over something as silly as a disagreement about Emily's career choices. "They both wanted to apologize," Tommy said softly to his sleeping parents. "That's the saddest part. They both wanted to fix things, but neither knew how to take the first step." Sarah stirred, hearing his voice. "What do you mean, honey?" "Max showed me. Mr. Chen wrote letters to Emily, but never sent them. They're in his desk drawer. And Emily, she drove by the house so many times, but never stopped. Last month she sat outside for an hour on his birthday, just crying in her car. Max watched from the window, wanting to run to her, but Mr. Chen had already gone to bed. "How can you know all that?" Sarah asked, though she was beginning to accept that her son's gift defied explanation. "Dogs remember everything important," Tommy said simply. "Every emotion, every moment that matters. We think they just live in the now, but they hold all the love and pain of their families inside them. Max has been carrying their sadness for 2 years. The clinic door chimed, and James appeared. "There's someone here asking about Max. Says she's family." Emily Chen walked in slowly, her arm in a sling, a bandage on her forehead. Her eyes were red from crying, but when she saw Max, fresh tears started immediately. Will he be okay?" "He'll recover, Doctor," Torres assured her, "thanks to Tommy here. He's the one who found Max and called for help." Emily looked at Tommy, confusion clear on her face. "The paramedics said a little boy knew exactly where to find me, that he described my car, knew about the exhaust leak, even knew which tree I'd crashed near. But how? Tommy stood up, his hand still on Max. He told me, not with words, but with pictures. Max loves you and your dad so much that he could feel you both in trouble. He broke through a window to try to get help for your dad, then came to our house when he couldn't wake him up. Emily's hand went to her mouth. He broke through a window? For Dad? He knew your dad needed his heart medicine. He tried to bring it to him, but couldn't manage it with his mouth. So, he came for help. And while he was showing me about your dad, he showed me about you too, about the crash. Emily sank into a chair, her body shaking with sobs. I was coming to apologize. It's been 2 years, 2 stupid years because I was too proud to admit I was wrong, and he was too stubborn to call me. And now? He's okay, Sarah said gently. He's at Mercy Hospital, stable, and asking for you. Emily looked up sharply. He's asking for me? Tommy nodded. His first words when he woke up were, "Find Emily." The nurses thought he was confused, but he kept saying it. "Find Emily. Tell her I'm sorry." "How do you know that?" Emily whispered. Tommy couldn't explain that he'd seen it through Max's connection to Mr. Chen felt the old man's desperate need to make things right. So he just shrugged. "I just know." Emily stood up shakily and approached Max. Can I touch him?" "Gently, doctor," Torres advised. "He's been through a lot." Emily's fingers barely brushed Max's fur, but the dog's eyes fluttered open at her touch. His tail, despite everything, began to wag weakly. "Hey, boy," Emily whispered. "You saved us, didn't you? You saved us both." Max's eyes found Tommy, and in that look, Tommy saw something that made his throat tight. Gratitude, yes, but also a passing of responsibility. As if Max was saying, "They're going to be okay now. Thank you for hearing me." "He wants you to go to your dad," Tommy said suddenly. "Max wants you to go now, while the words are still easy to say." Emily looked at the 5-year-old boy with wonder. "You really can understand him, can't you?" Tommy nodded. "He's been waiting 2 years for you to come home. Don't make him wait anymore." Emily leaned down and kissed Max's head gently. "I'll be back, boy. With Dad. We'll both be back." As she left Doctor, Torres turned to Tommy with a curious expression. "I've been a vet for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like what you can do. Would you be willing to help me with other animals? Some of them come in so traumatized we can't figure out what's wrong." Tommy looked at his parents, who nodded their permission. "I'd like that," he said. "But right now, I need to stay with Max." The story of the Christmas Eve rescue spread through the town like wildfire. By noon, reporters were calling, wanting to interview the miracle boy who had saved 3 lives, but Tommy refused them all, preferring to stay by Max's side as the dog slowly recovered. Mr. Chen and Emily arrived at the clinic that evening, Mr. Chen in a wheelchair pushed by his daughter. The reunion between man and dog was something that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Max, despite his injuries, tried to sit up, his tail wagging furiously. "My brave boy," Mr. Chen whispered, his weathered hands gentle on Max's head. "My brave, brave boy." Tommy watched from the corner, a small smile on his face. The silver thread he'd sensed between Max and his family was glowing now, stronger than ever. The break had been healed, the family restored. "Thank you," Emily said, approaching Tommy. "I don't understand how you did what you did, but thank you." Mr. Chen wheeled himself over, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "The paramedics told me a little boy knew I was dying, that he knew about my heart medicine, knew exactly where I'd fallen. They said it was impossible, but here you are." Tommy felt suddenly shy under their attention. "Max told me. He loves you so much that when you were in trouble, he found a way to make someone understand." Mr. Chen reached out and took Tommy's small hand in his weathered one. "Then I owe you both my life. And more than that, you gave me my daughter back." "Actually," Tommy said, "that was Max too. He knew Emily was coming. He felt her getting closer. That's why he was so desperate. He knew if something happened to you before she got here, she'd never forgive herself." Emily made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. 2 years. We wasted 2 years. But you have now, Tommy said with the simple wisdom children sometimes possess. "That's what matters." As the weeks passed, Max recovered slowly but steadily. The cast came off his leg, the wounds healed into scars that would always remind everyone of his heroic Christmas Eve. Mr. Chen and Emily repaired their relationship, the near tragedy having shown them how precious their time together was. Tommy began visiting Dr. Torres's clinic regularly, helping with animals that were too traumatized or frightened to be treated easily. His gift, as people had begun calling it, grew stronger with each use. He could sense pain in animals from houses away, feel their fear, their loneliness, their love. One day, about a month after Christmas, Tommy was at the clinic when a woman brought in a small terrier that hadn't eaten in days. The owner was frantic, having been to 3 vets with no answers. Tommy placed his hand on the little dog and immediately pulled back, his face pale. "She's not sick. She's sad. Her friend died." "Friend?" the owner asked. "Another dog. Bigger, older, they slept together every night." The woman's hand went to her mouth. "Buster, our old lab. He passed 2 weeks ago. But I didn't think dogs don't mourn, do they?" "They do, Doctor," Torres said gently. "And now that we know what's wrong, we can help her through it." Tommy spent an hour with the terrier, somehow communicating comfort in a way that went beyond words or touch. By the time they left, the dog had eaten a small meal and was showing interest in her surroundings again. "How do you do it?" Dr. Torres asked for the 100th time. Tommy thought about it, really thought about it. "I think everyone can do it a little bit. You know when your cat's about to throw up, or when your dog needs to go outside even before they ask. But most people think it's just coincidence or instinct. They don't listen to the quiet voice that's trying to tell them more. But you do? I always have. But Max made it louder. He needed someone to hear him so badly that he made the connection stronger. And now, I can't turn it off." He paused. "I don't want to turn it off." News of Tommy's abilities spread beyond their small town. Scientists wanted to study him. Reporters wanted to interview him. Animal rights organizations wanted to hire him. But Sarah and Mark protected their son fiercely, allowing only what Tommy himself wanted to do, which was simply to help animals in need, one at a time. On a cold February morning, Tommy woke with a start. Images flooded his mind, not from Max this time, but from somewhere else. A dog trapped in a basement. No, multiple dogs. The smell of fear and waste. Pain from fights, from beatings, from starvation. He ran to his parents' room, shaking them awake. "There are dogs in trouble, a lot of them. Someone's making them fight." Mark sat up, instantly alert. They'd learned not to question Tommy's visions. "Where?" Tommy closed his eyes, trying to sort through the jumbled images. "Near water. I can hear boats. And there's a red door. No, a red shipping container. The dogs are in a shipping container." Sarah was already reaching for her phone to call Detective Wilson, who had become their liaison with the police for situations like this. Within an hour, a search was underway. At the industrial docks, they found them that afternoon, 17 dogs in various states of injury and starvation, locked in an abandoned shipping container. The man running the fighting ring was arrested on site, caught preparing for that evening's fights. Tommy insisted on going to the clinic where the dogs were taken. Despite his parents' concerns about him seeing such cruelty, he walked among the cages, his small hands reaching through bars to touch noses and paws. "This one," he said, stopping at a cage containing a scarred pit bull. "She's not mean. She's scared. They made her fight, but she never wanted to. She just wanted to play." Dr. Torres watched in amazement as the dog, which had been growling at everyone who approached, pressed against the bars to get closer to Tommy's touch. "And this one," Tommy moved to another cage, "had puppies. They took them away. She's been looking for them for months. Each dog had a story, a history of pain that Tommy could somehow access and translate. His information helped the veterinary team treat not just their physical wounds, but understand their emotional trauma. One particular dog, a German Shepherd mix that looked a bit like Max, wouldn't let anyone near him. He'd bitten 2 handlers already. But when Tommy approached, the dog went still. "He wasn't always a fighting dog," Tommy said quietly. "He was someone's pet. A little girl named Anna. She had yellow hair and sang to him. But her dad owed money to bad people, and they took the dog as payment." Detective Wilson, who had been observing, made a note. "Can you see anything that might help us find this Anna?" Tommy concentrated, his hand steady on the dog's head, despite everyone's nervousness about him being so close to an aggressive animal. "Blue House, number 82. There's a broken swing in the front yard. That's 3 blocks from here, one of the officers said, checking his phone. 82 Riverside Drive, Blue House. Go, Wilson ordered. If this dog was stolen, there might be more to this than just the fighting ring. As it turned out, Tommy's vision led them to uncover a larger criminal operation. The dog fighting was just one part of an extortion and illegal gambling network. Anna's father had been too frightened to report his dog being taken, but with the evidence they now had, he agreed to testify. The reunion between the German Shepherd mix and little Anna was something that made even the hardened police officers tear up. The aggressive dog turned into a wiggling, crying mess of joy when he saw his girl. How did he survive it? Anna's father asked, watching his daughter and dog together. How did he not become vicious? He held on to love, Tommy said simply. Even when they tried to make him mean, he remembered Anna's songs. He sang them to himself when he was scared. Dr. Torres knelt beside Tommy. You know, what you can do, it's changing everything. These dogs, they might have been put down as aggressive without your insight. Now they have a chance at real recovery, real homes. Tommy nodded, but his expression was troubled. There are so many, though. So many animals that are scared or hurt or lost. And I can only help the ones I meet. You're 5 years old, Sarah reminded him gently. You don't have to save them all. But I hear them sometimes, Tommy admitted. At night I hear them calling. Not just dogs, cats in storm drains, birds with broken wings, rabbits caught in fences. They're all so quiet that nobody notices. Mark pulled his son close. Then we'll help as many as we can. But you have to promise us you won't carry all their pain yourself. Tommy nodded, but they all knew it was a promise he couldn't entirely keep. The gift that let him save lives also meant he felt every animal suffering more acutely than most people could imagine. Spring arrived with a challenge that would test Tommy's abilities in a new way. Max had fully recovered and was back home with Mr. Chen and Emily, who had moved back in with her father. But one April morning, Max showed up at the Walker house, barking urgently at the door. Tommy knew immediately something was wrong. The moment he touched Max, images flooded his mind. But they weren't memories. They were happening now, in real time. Mr. Chen was in his garden, perfectly healthy, planting tomatoes with Emily. So, why was Max so upset? Then he saw it, or rather, felt it. Danger approaching. Not to Mr. Chen, but to someone else. A child in the park 2 blocks away. A little boy who had wandered off from his mother, heading toward the pond where the spring rain had made the banks soft and treacherous. Mom, we need to go to the park right now. Tommy grabbed his jacket, Max already running ahead. Sarah didn't question it anymore. She grabbed her keys and they ran, following Max's lead. They arrived just as a 3-year-old boy stepped onto the muddy bank. His mother was looking at her phone, unaware her son had wandered off. Stop! Tommy yelled, but he was too far away. The bank gave way, and the child fell into the cold water with a splash that seemed to echo across the entire park. Max didn't hesitate. Despite his old injuries, he plunged into the pond, swimming strongly toward the child. But the boy was panicking, going under, his heavy jacket pulling him down. Tommy closed his eyes and did something he'd never done before. He tried to send rather than receive. He pushed thoughts toward Max, images of how to grab the child's jacket, how to keep his head above water. Whether Max received the message or simply knew what to do, he managed to grab the boy's collar and start swimming back. The mother, finally aware of what was happening, was screaming. Other people were running to help. But it was Max who got the child ashore, where Sarah pulled him out and immediately began checking him over. The boy was scared but unharmed, coughing up water but breathing. His mother held him, sobbing with relief and terror. Max stood, nearby, shaking water from his coat, his tail wagging slightly as if to say, "All in a day's work." "How did you know?" Sarah asked Tommy quietly as paramedics checked the child. Tommy looked at Max, who was now being fussed over by Mr. Chen and Emily, who had followed when Max ran off. Max felt it. He's been watching that pond ever since the rain made it dangerous. He knew someone would eventually fall in. He was just waiting. "Dogs don't think that far ahead," someone said. Tommy turned to look at the speaker, his young eyes holding too much wisdom. They do when they've almost lost everything once. Max watches for danger now. He guards the whole neighborhood, not just Mr. Chen. The local news picked up the story. Hero dog saves toddler from drowning, but they missed the bigger picture. Max hadn't just happened to be there. He'd been patrolling, watching, protecting, and somehow he'd known to get Tommy when the moment came. That night, Tommy had a long conversation with Max in the way only they could communicate. Images flowed between them, Max showing Tommy all the dangers he watched for, all the small protections he provided that no one noticed. The cat he'd chased away from a poisoned rat. The stranger he'd barked at, who'd been checking door handles. The gas leak he'd detected and alerted Mr. Chen about by refusing to enter the kitchen. "You're the real hero," Tommy whispered to Max. "I just translate." But Max's response, if Tommy understood it correctly, was that they were a team. The dog could sense danger, but Tommy could make humans understand. Together, they were something more than either could be alone. Summer brought a new development in Tommy's abilities. He began to sense not just immediate danger or trauma, but patterns, migrations of birds that would predict weather changes, the movement of urban wildlife that indicated environmental problems, even the collective anxiety of pets that preceded earthquakes by days. Dr. Torres, who had become something of a mentor to Tommy, started documenting these predictions. When Tommy said the dogs were nervous about something coming from the ground, she noted it. 3 days later, a 4.2 earthquake shook the region, minor by most standards, but significant enough to make the news. "This is unprecedented," she told Sarah and Mark. "He's not just communicating with individual animals anymore. He's tapping into some kind of collective consciousness." "Is it hurting him?" Sarah asked, her primary concern always for her son's well-being. Dr. Torres watched Tommy playing with a group of rescue puppies, his laughter bright and genuine. "I don't think so. If anything, he seems more balanced lately, like he's learned to manage the input better." But Tommy was learning more than just management. He was discovering that his gift came with responsibility. When he sensed a dog being abused 3 streets over, he couldn't ignore it. When he felt a cat colony suffering from poisoned food, he had to act. Each rescue, each intervention, added to his growing reputation. By the time school started in the fall, Tommy was known throughout the state as the boy who talks to animals. His kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Peterson, was initially skeptical, but that changed when Tommy calmly informed her that the class hamster, Mr. Whiskers, was pregnant, something no one had known since Mr. Whiskers was supposed to be male. "The pet store made a mistake," Tommy explained. "She's been hiding it because she's scared. Hamsters in pet stores who have babies, bad things happen to the babies." Sure enough, Mr. Whiskers, hastily renamed Mrs. Whiskers, gave birth to 6 tiny hamsters a week later. Tommy helped the class create a proper nursery area, somehow knowing exactly what the new mother needed to feel safe. His classmates, rather than finding him weird, thought he was the coolest kid ever. They brought him their pets' problems, a parakeet that wouldn't sing, a goldfish that wouldn't eat, a rabbit that kept escaping its hutch. "The parakeet misses its friend from the pet store," Tommy would say. "The goldfish doesn't like the new food. It hurts his stomach. The rabbit isn't trying to escape. She's trying to find a better place to have babies because she doesn't feel safe in the hutch." Each diagnosis proved correct. Each solution worked. Parents began calling the walkers, asking if Tommy could help with their pets. Sarah and Mark established boundaries, only emergencies during school weeks, and Tommy always had the right to say no. But the universe seemed to have other plans. One October evening, as the family was carving pumpkins for Halloween, Tommy suddenly went rigid, his carving knife clattering to the table. "Tommy?" Sarah reached for him, alarmed. His eyes were unfocused, seeing something far away. "The wolves," he whispered. "They're coming back." "Wolves?" Mark exchanged worried glances with Sarah. "There haven't been wolves in this area for 50 years. Tommy blinked, coming back to himself. "They're coming. 3 of them. They're scared and hungry, and their home burned in the forest fires up north. They're coming this way because they can smell water and prey." "We need to call wildlife services," Sarah said, reaching for her phone. "No!" Tommy's vehemence surprised them. "They'll shoot them. The wolves aren't bad. They're just lost. They don't know this is where people live now. Their grandparents used to live here, and they're following old paths that don't exist anymore." Mark knelt beside his son. "Tommy, wolves near town could be dangerous. So are cars and dogs and stairs. Tommy said with 5-year-old logic. "But we don't shoot those. The wolves just need to be redirected. They need to find the new wilderness, not the old one." The next morning, Tommy's prediction made the news when a jogger spotted 3 wolves at the edge of town. Panic spread quickly. Schools went into lockdown, parents kept children inside, and wildlife services prepared tranquilizer guns and, if necessary, real ones. Tommy begged to be allowed to help. "I can talk to them. Not talk, but I can show them where to go, where it's safe for them and for us." It was Detective Wilson who finally advocated for giving Tommy a chance. "This kid has been right about everything else," he argued to the wildlife team. "Let's at least see what he can do." Under heavy supervision, wildlife officers, police, and his parents all present, Tommy was brought to the area where the wolves had been spotted. Max came too, insisted on by Tommy, who said he needed a translator who spoke both wild and domestic. They found the wolves hiding in a drainage tunnel, 3 gray shadows with gleaming eyes. The officers raised their tranquilizer guns, but Tommy stepped forward, his hand on Max's head. "Wait," he said softly. Then he closed his eyes and did something he'd only done once before. He projected. Not words, but images, feelings, directions. Safe paths through the wilderness that avoided human settlements. Water sources, prey grounds. The new territories where wolves were protected and welcome. Max added his own communication, the bridge between wild and tame, showing the wolves that not all domestic creatures were threats. That passage was possible without conflict. For 10 tense minutes, nothing moved. Then the largest wolf, the mother, stepped out of the tunnel. She looked directly at Tommy, and in that gaze was something ancient and intelligent. She huffed once, a sound that might have been acknowledgement, then turned and led her pack away. Not toward town, but toward the mountains, exactly along the path Tommy had suggested. The wildlife officers tracked them for 3 days. The wolves followed Tommy's suggested route perfectly, eventually settling in a protected area 50 miles away, where a wolf reintroduction program had been hoping to establish a pack. "How?" was all the lead wildlife officer could say when he returned. Tommy shrugged. "Everything alive wants to survive. Sometimes they just need to know how." The wolf incident changed things. Tommy wasn't just a local curiosity anymore. He was making national news. Universities wanted to study him. Government agencies wanted to recruit him. Animal rights organizations wanted him as their spokesperson. But Tommy was still just 5 years old, a kindergartner who liked dinosaurs and chocolate milk and watching cartoons on Saturday mornings. Sarah and Mark fought fiercely to protect his childhood, turning down most requests, limiting his work to what he wanted to do. "I don't want to be famous," Tommy told his parents one evening. "I just want to help." "We know, sweetheart," Sarah said, holding him close. "And you are helping. More than you know." Winter came early that year, bringing with it a challenge that would test not just Tommy's abilities, but his courage. It started with dreams, not visions from animals, but something else. Images of darkness, of cold, of being trapped. But these weren't coming from an animal, they were coming from a child. "There's a girl," Tommy told his parents at breakfast, dark circles under his eyes from a restless night. "She's lost. Or not lost. Taken." Mark set down his coffee cup carefully. "Tommy, you can sense people now too?" "No," Tommy said, frustration clear in his voice. "But there's a dog with her. A little white dog. The dog is scared for her. The dog is trying to tell someone, anyone, but nobody understands." "Where?" Sarah asked, already reaching for her phone to call Detective Wilson. Tommy closed his eyes, trying to sort through the jumbled images. "Basement, concrete walls. There's a window, but it's painted black. The dog can smell chemicals, like cleaning stuff, but stronger." Within hours, Detective Wilson had mobilized a search. A 6-year-old girl named Lucy Morrison had been reported missing 3 days ago from a town 2 hours away. She'd been walking her small white terrier when both disappeared. "The dog is still with her?" Wilson asked Tommy. Tommy nodded. "The man who took her didn't want the dog, but Lucy wouldn't let go. She said the dog was her best friend, so he kept them both." "Can you sense where they are?" Tommy struggled, his face scrunched in concentration. "The dog doesn't know addresses. But I can see things through his eyes. There's a number on the wall, 1847. And outside, when the man opens the door, there's a sound like trains but not trains." Subway, one of the officers said. Industrial area near the subway line. They searched all day, Tommy providing details as they came to him. The color of the door, green. The sound of the man's voice, deep with a whistle, when he said S sounds. The smell that the dog associated with the man. Cigarettes and something sweet like candy. It was the candy that broke the case. An officer remembered arresting a man 2 years prior who always had butterscotch candies in his pocket. Said it helped him quit smoking. The man had been suspected of attempted kidnapping, but released for lack of evidence. His last known address was a warehouse in the industrial district, building number 1847. They found Lucy and her terrier, Snowball, in the basement of that warehouse, exactly as Tommy had described. The man was arrested trying to flee through a back exit. Lucy was scared but unharmed, clutching Snowball, who had, according to her, bitten the man every time he tried to come too close. The dog saved her, Detective Wilson told the media later, and Tommy Walker saved them both. But Tommy knew better. When he finally met Snowball, the little terrier showed him everything. How she'd barked for help until her voice was gone. How she'd bitten and scratched and fought. How she'd sent out distress signals in the only way she knew how, hoping desperately that someone, somewhere, could understand. "You were so brave," Tommy whispered to Snowball. "You protected Lucy, all by yourself." Snowball licked his face, her tail wagging for the first time in days. The rescue made Tommy a household name. The story of the boy who could hear a dog's cry for help from 2 hours away was picked up by every major news outlet. The phone rang constantly with requests for help, for interviews, for Tommy to use his gift to solve every missing pet and person case in the country. It was too much for a 5-year-old to bear. Tommy began having nightmares, not visions, but actual dreams, where all the animals in the world were calling to him at once, their voices a deafening chorus of need that he couldn't possibly answer. Dr. Torres was the one who suggested a solution. "He needs to learn to shield," she said, "to control when he listens and when he doesn't. Otherwise, this gift will destroy him." She brought in Dr. Marcus Reed, the researcher she'd mentioned months ago, who studied human-animal communication. He was a gentle older man with kind eyes who didn't treat Tommy like a test subject, but like a grandson. "You know," he told Tommy during their first meeting, "there have been others like you throughout history. People who could hear what animals were saying, but most of them never learned to control it." "What happened to them?" Tommy asked. Dr. Reed's expression was sad. "They got overwhelmed. The world is full of animal voices, Tommy. Billions of them. You can't listen to them all. But they need help." "Yes," Dr. Reed agreed. "But you're one small boy. You can't save them all, and that's okay. What you can do is teach others to listen better, to pay attention to the signals animals give us all the time." He taught Tommy meditation techniques, ways to visualize walls in his mind that could filter the incoming signals. It wasn't about shutting the animals out entirely, but about choosing when to open the door and how wide to open it. It took weeks of practice, but slowly Tommy learned. He could still hear Max clearly. Their bond was too strong to block. And he could still sense immediate danger or extreme distress from animals nearby. But the constant background noise of every creature's emotions began to fade to a manageable level. Spring came again, bringing with it Tommy's 6th birthday. The Walkers threw a small party, just family and close friends, including Mr. Chen and Emily, Dr. Torres, and Detective Wilson, who had become like extended family through all they'd been through together. Max was there, of course, older now, but still strong, still watching over the neighborhood with vigilant eyes. He lay beside Tommy as the boy blew out his candles, and in the connection between them, Tommy felt the dog's deep contentment. The fear and trauma of being trapped in the wall had faded, replaced by the joy of a family reunited and a purpose fulfilled. "What did you wish for?" Emily asked after the candles were out. Tommy looked around the room at all the people who had come to believe in him, to support him, to protect him. From the weight of his gift, while helping him use it wisely. "I wish that everyone could hear what I hear," he said, "even just for one day. So they'd know how much animals love us, how hard they try to keep us safe, how much they need us to understand them." "That's a big wish," Mr. Chen said gently. "Maybe," Tommy agreed. "But Max taught me that big wishes sometimes come true. You just have to find the right person to listen." That summer, Tommy's wish began to come true in an unexpected way. Dr. Torres and Dr. Reed collaborated on a program teaching veterinarians and animal shelter workers to better read animal body language and stress signals. They called it the Walker Protocol, after Tommy, and while it couldn't replicate his gift, it significantly improved human-animal communication. Tommy himself became a teacher, working with other children, who showed signs of heightened animal empathy. He was patient and kind, remembering his own frustration when adults didn't believe him. "The animals are always talking," he would tell his young students. "We just forgot how to listen. But we can remember. We can learn again." One autumn day, a year and a half after the Christmas Eve that changed everything, Tommy was walking Max when they passed the spot where the Christmas tree lot set up each year. Max stopped, his ears perked, and Tommy felt a familiar tingle. Not of danger this time, but of memory. "You remember, don't you?" Tommy said softly. "This is where it all started. Where you made me hear you." Max wagged his tail and leaned against Tommy's leg, and in that simple gesture was a complete conversation. Gratitude for being heard, pride in what Tommy had become, love that transcended species and logic. As they walked home, Tommy noticed something different. Other people were paying attention to their animals in a way they hadn't before. A woman stopped walking when her dog froze, looking to see what had caught his attention. A man noticed his cat's agitation and moved her carrier out of the direct sun. Small things, but significant. The world was learning to listen. That night, Tommy had a dream. Not a vision or a message, just a dream. In it, he stood in a vast field surrounded by animals of every kind. Dogs, cats, birds, wolves, even the elephants from the zoo he'd helped diagnose with grief the month before. They weren't crying out in pain or fear. They were simply there, peaceful, understood. And in the center of them all was Max, his fur glowing golden in the dreamlight, his eyes wise and ancient. "Thank you," Max said, and in the dream he could speak with words. "Thank you for hearing us." Tommy woke with tears on his cheeks, but they were happy tears. He padded to his window and looked out at the sleeping neighborhood. Somewhere, he knew, an animal was in distress. Somewhere, a creature needed help. But somewhere else, animals were safe and loved and understood because people had learned to pay attention. He couldn't save them all, but he could teach others to save the ones they could reach. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. His mother peered in. "Can't sleep, sweetheart?" "Just thinking," Tommy said. Sarah came in and sat on his bed. "About what?" "About Christmas. It's coming soon." "It is," Sarah agreed. "What would you like this year?" Tommy thought about it. "I want to visit Max's wall." Sarah's eyebrows rose. "The wall where he was trapped?" "Why?" "Because that's where everything changed. Where I learned to really listen. I want to see it again, to remember." Sarah pulled him close. "We can do that. But Tommy, you know that place was horrible. Max suffered there." "I know," Tommy said, "but it's also where he proved that love is stronger than walls. Where he showed me that if you need help badly enough, someone will hear you. Even if that someone is just a 5-year-old kid who everyone thinks is making things up." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Sarah asked, "Do you ever wish you didn't have this gift? That you couldn't hear them?" Tommy considered the question seriously. "Sometimes, when it's too much, when I can feel all the hurt and can't fix it all. But then I think about Max under that tree, and Lucy in that basement, and the wolves just trying to find their way home. If I couldn't hear them, who would?" "You're very brave, you know that?" Tommy shrugged. "Max is brave. I just listen." The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. A woman from the State University's veterinary program arrived with a proposal. They wanted to create a formal program studying human-animal communication, with Tommy as their primary consultant. "He's 6 years old," Mark said firmly. "He's not a science experiment." "We understand," the woman, doctor. Patricia Huang said quickly. "We're not proposing to study him. We want him to teach us. Just a few hours a month, working with our students, showing them how to better understand animal behavior." Tommy looked at Max, who was lying in his favorite sunny spot. The dog's tail thumped once, approval. "I'll do it," Tommy said. "But Max comes too. He's the real teacher." Dr. Huang smiled. "Of course. We wouldn't dream of separating you two. The program was a remarkable success. Tommy would sit with veterinary students and their practice animals, teaching them to notice the tiny signals they had been trained to overlook, the slight tension in a cat's whiskers that indicated pain, the way a dog's eyes tracked movement when they were anxious, the particular quality of silence that meant an animal had given up hope. Medicine can tell you what's wrong with their bodies, Tommy would explain, but you have to listen to know what's wrong with their hearts. One student, a young woman named Jessica, was particularly gifted. She couldn't hear animals the way Tommy could, but she had an intuition that came close. "I've always known when animals were sad," she told Tommy during a break. "My parents said I was too sensitive, that I'd never make it as a vet because I'd cry over every patient." "Crying means you care," Tommy said simply, "and caring means you'll fight harder to help them." Jessica went on to become one of the most successful veterinarians in the state, known for her ability to diagnose conditions other vets missed. She always credited Tommy with teaching her to trust her instincts. Winter arrived with a challenge that even Tommy couldn't have predicted. Max, now 8 years old and showing his age, began having episodes where he would stare at empty corners, whining at things that weren't there. "He's seeing something," Tommy told Dr. Torres during an examination. "Not something real, but memories maybe, or dreams. It's confusing for him." Dr. Torres ran tests, finding what they'd feared, the early stages of canine cognitive dysfunction, similar to dementia in humans. "But he's not that old," Emily protested, tears in her eyes. "The trauma he experienced, Doctor," Torres explained gently. "The months of starvation and stress, they aged him prematurely. His body survived, but his brain paid a price." Tommy spent hours with Max, trying to understand what the dog was experiencing. Through their connection, he felt Max's confusion when past and present blurred, his fear when he couldn't remember where he was, his moments of clarity when everything snapped back into focus. "He's not always lost," Tommy reported. "Sometimes he's completely here. And even when he's confused, he knows he's loved. That never goes away." Mr. Chen and Emily restructured their lives around Max's needs, creating routines that helped him stay oriented. Tommy visited daily, anchoring Max to the present with their unbreakable bond. One snowy evening, as Tommy sat with Max during one of his confused episodes, the dog suddenly became alert, focused in a way he hadn't been in weeks. He struggled to his feet and walked to the window, whining urgently. "What is it, boy?" Tommy asked, his hand on Max's head. Images flooded his mind. Not confused memories, but real present danger. A car accident on the icy road 3 blocks away. A family trapped, the smell of gasoline getting stronger. "Dad!" Tommy shouted. "Call 911. Car accident on Elm Street near the big pine tree. The car's upside down and there's gasoline leaking." Mark didn't hesitate, making the call while grabbing his coat. They arrived at the scene just as the first responders did, finding exactly what Max had sensed, an overturned SUV with a family of 4 trapped inside, gasoline pooling beneath the vehicle. The rescue was swift and successful, all 4 family members extracted before the vehicle caught fire. As they watched the family being treated by paramedics, Tommy felt Max lean against his leg, exhausted but satisfied. "You're still protecting everyone, aren't you?" Tommy whispered. "Even when your mind is cloudy, your heart remembers what to do." Max's tail wagged weakly, and in that moment, his eyes were completely clear, completely present, completely Max. The incident gave Max a new purpose. Even as his confusion grew worse, he would have moments of crystal clarity when danger threatened the neighborhood. It was as if the urgency of protecting others could cut through the fog in his mind, bringing him back to himself. Dr. Reed found it fascinating. It suggests that purpose, duty, love, these things exist deeper than memory. They're written in the soul, not just the brain. Spring came gently that year, and with it, a shift in Max's condition. His confused episodes became less frequent, replaced by a peaceful acceptance. He would lie in the sun for hours, his eyes distant but content, occasionally thumping his tail when Tommy or Mr. Chen or Emily approached. "He's not suffering," Tommy assured them one afternoon as they all sat in Mr. Chen's garden. "He's reviewing, I think, going through all his memories, all the love he's given and received. He's making peace with everything." "How do you know?" Emily asked, though she trusted Tommy completely. Tommy's hand rested gently on Max's graying head. Because he's showing me. Every rescue, every reunion, every quiet moment of joy. He wants us to know that it was all worth it. The pain, the fear, the wall, it led to this. To family, to purpose, to love. Mr. Chen wiped his eyes. He saved us all, didn't he? Not just that Christmas Eve, but every day since. We saved each other, Tommy corrected. That's what Max wants us to remember. We all saved each other. That summer, the town held a ceremony honoring Max and Tommy for their service to the community. The mayor presented Max with a medal for bravery, which the old dog accepted with dignity, his tail wagging as the crowd applauded. Tommy spoke briefly, his voice clear and strong despite his young age. Max taught me that every animal has a voice. Every creature has something important to say. We just have to learn to listen. And when we do, we discover that they've been trying to save us all along, just like we try to save them. The crowd was silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. But Tommy wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Max, who was looking back at him, with eyes full of love and understanding. Fall arrived with its painted leaves and cooling air. Max's walks grew shorter, his naps longer, but his spirit remained bright, especially when Tommy was near. They would sit together for hours, sometimes in silence, sometimes in that wordless communication that had defined their relationship from the beginning. One October afternoon, as they sat beneath the old oak tree in Mr. Chen's yard, Max placed his paw on Tommy's hand, a gesture he'd never made before. "What is it, boy?" Tommy asked softly. The images that came weren't memories or warnings. They were gifts. Max showed Tommy every animal he would help in the future, every life he would save, every connection he would make. It was like looking at a map of stars, each point, of light a creature waiting to be understood. "You're not saying goodbye, are you?" Tommy whispered, tears starting to fall. Max's response was complex. Not goodbye, but until later. Not an ending, but a transformation. He showed Tommy that the connection they had built would never break, that every animal Tommy helped would carry a piece of Max's spirit, his courage, his love. That night, Tommy had a dream unlike any before. He stood in a vast garden where every flower was a memory, every tree a life saved. Max was there, young and strong again, his coat gleaming in the eternal sunlight. "This is what we built together," Dream Max said in a voice like wind through leaves. "This is what continues even when bodies fail. Every connection made, every understanding reached, every moment of love. It all stays. It all matters." When Tommy woke, he knew. He dressed quickly and quietly, slipping out of the house as dawn broke. He found Max in his favorite spot in Mr. Chen's garden, peaceful, still, his journey complete. Mr. Chen was sitting beside him, tears streaming down his weathered face. "He waited for you," the old man said. "He wouldn't let go until you were here." Tommy knelt beside Max's still form, his small hand resting on the fur that had been his anchor to this gift for almost 2 years. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for showing me how to listen." Emily arrived, then Tommy's parents, then Dr. Torres. They stood in a circle around Max, each sharing memories of how he'd touched their lives. The dog who'd survived the impossible, who'd saved a family, who'd opened a bridge between species. "He's not really gone," Tommy said finally, his voice steady despite his tears. "Every time I help an animal, every time someone listens a little harder to what their pet is trying to say, Max is there." He made sure of that. The funeral was attended by hundreds, everyone whose life Max had touched, directly or indirectly. The mayor spoke, Detective Wilson spoke, even some of the veterinary students Tommy had taught came to pay their respects. But the most moving tribute came from a little girl named Anna, whose German shepherd had been rescued from the fighting ring. She stood up, uninvited but welcome, and said simply, "Max showed us that love is stronger than walls. That's all, that's everything." In the weeks that followed, Tommy's gift didn't diminish. If anything, it grew stronger. But it was different now, tempered with Max's wisdom, guided by his memory. When Tommy helped animals, he could feel Max's presence, not as a ghost, but as a part of the gift itself. Dr. Torres noticed the change immediately. "You're more confident now." "More focused." Tommy nodded. Max left me instructions, not in words, but in understanding. He showed me how to use this gift without letting it use me, how to help without drowning in all the need. 1 year after Max's passing, on a cold December evening, Tommy was decorating the Christmas tree with his parents when he felt it. A familiar sensation, urgent but not panicked. He closed his eyes, opening himself to whatever was calling. It was a dog, young and scared, trapped somewhere dark and cold. But this wasn't just any dog. Through the connection, Tommy felt something that made his breath catch. This dog carried Max's bloodline, a grandson, or great-grandson, perhaps, from before Max was neutered. "Mom, Dad," Tommy said urgently. "We need to go. Now." They didn't question him anymore. They grabbed coats and flashlights and followed Tommy as he led them through the snowy streets, guided by instinct and inheritance. They found the puppy in a storm drain, scared and cold, but unharmed. As Tommy pulled him out, the puppy looked at him with eyes that were heartbreakingly familiar. Max's eyes, young and bright and full of possibility. "Hello, little one," Tommy whispered. "I've been waiting for you." The puppy licked his face, tail wagging, and in that moment, Tommy understood. This wasn't Max returned. Max was gone, at peace, his work complete. But life continued, love continued, and the connections forged between species could never truly be broken. They named the puppy Leo, and he grew strong and brave under Tommy's guidance. He couldn't communicate with Tommy the way Max had. That bond had been unique, forged in crisis and sealed in love. But Leo had his own gifts, his own purpose, his own story to write. Years passed. Tommy grew from a gifted child into a remarkable young man, still able to hear what animals couldn't say, still teaching others to listen. He established a foundation, the Max Memorial Animal Communication Center, where people brought animals with behavioral issues, mysterious illnesses, or trauma that traditional methods couldn't resolve. The walls of the center were covered with photos. Every animal helped, every connection made. But in the center, in a place of honor, hung a portrait of Max, painted by Emily Chen. Beneath it, a simple plaque. "He taught us to listen." One Christmas Eve, 20 years after that fateful night when a German shepherd's cries changed everything, Tommy, now doctor. Thomas Walker, doctor of veterinary medicine and animal psychology, stood in the renovated basement where Max had been trapped. The wall had been transformed into a memorial with a window where darkness once reigned. His own son, 5 years old and showing signs of the same gift, stood beside him. "This is where it started?" the boy asked. "This is where Max made sure someone heard him," Tommy corrected. "But it really started with love. Mr. Chen's love for Max, Max's love for his family, and the love that makes us keep trying, even when things seem impossible. Can all animals talk to us like Max talked to you?" Tommy knelt beside his son, remembering asking similar questions at that age. "They're all trying to talk to us, all the time. Max just found a way to make me understand. And now, if we're very quiet and very patient, we can hear them too. Will you teach me?" "Every day," Tommy promised, "just like Max taught me." As they left the memorial, Tommy felt a familiar presence. Not a ghost, not a memory, but something eternal. The connection between human and animal, the bridge Max had built with his sacrifice and courage, the understanding that love speaks a language that transcends species. In the distance, a dog barked, not in distress, but in joy. Somewhere, an animal and human were understanding each other a little better. Somewhere, the work continued. Tommy smiled, his hand finding his son's. "Come on," he said, "let's go home. Leo's waiting, and I think he has something to tell us." As they walked through the snowy streets, Christmas lights twinkling around them, Tommy thought about all the animals he'd helped, all the connections he'd facilitated, all the understanding he'd brought into the world. But mostly, he thought about Max, brave, loyal Max, who'd refused to let a wall silence his cry for help. "Thank you," he whispered to the winter wind. "Thank you for everything." And though it was probably just the wind, just the season, just his imagination, he could have sworn he heard, carried on the cold December air, the distant sound of a tail wagging against a wooden floor, the universal sign of a dog's pure, uncomplicated love. The work would continue, the gift would be passed on, and somewhere, in every animal saved, in every connection made, in every moment of understanding between species, Max's spirit lived on, proof that love is stronger than walls, that hope can survive the darkest places, and that sometimes all it takes to change the world is one small voice willing to listen when everyone else has stopped trying to hear. As Tommy and his son disappeared into the warm glow of their home, snow began to fall, covering the world in a blanket of white. It was Christmas Eve again, the night when miracles seem possible, when the impossible becomes real, when a child's faith can save lives. And in houses throughout the town, throughout the state, throughout everywhere Tommy's story had spread, people looked at their pets a little differently. They listened a little harder. They loved a little deeper. Because Max had taught them all the most important lesson. Every creature has a voice. Every animal has something vital to say. We just have to remember how to listen. And in that listening, in that connection, in that bridge between species built of empathy and love, the real miracle continues. Not just on Christmas Eve, but every single day. The German shepherd who cried under a fallen Christmas tree had saved more than just 3 lives that night. He had opened a door between worlds, teaching humanity that our fellow creatures are not just animals, but souls with stories, hearts with hopes, and voices that deserve to be heard. And Tommy Walker, the 5-year-old boy who heard him when no one else had become the translator the world needed, proving that sometimes the smallest among us can hear the loudest truths, and that love, real love, needs no words at all. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the incredible bond between humans and animals, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below, sharing your own experiences with animals who've changed your life. We read every single one. Remember, somewhere right now, an animal is trying to tell someone something important. Let's all learn to listen a little better. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next heartwarming story.